Imposing, full of history and attention to detail, Wittenberg invites visitors to take a trip back in time to the Reformation and experience the vibrant life of monks, beggars, merchants, journeymen, and prince-electors.
As soon as we entered, we talked about how real it seems.
To pull this off, a temporal sequence with a single picture so that the history of the Reformation is depicted. What a fantastic experience.
With this circle surrounding you, you almost think you are in the Middle Ages.
To be precise, this is the year 1517 and the birth of the Reformation. A 360-degree panorama shows 30 years in the life of the man who changed the course of Christianity, Martin Luther. And this is where it all began. The door of the castle church of Wittenberg is where the great reformer is said to have nailed his 95 theses, triggering the conflict between the Catholic Church, German princes, and scholars. This site has a special meaning for artist Yadegar Asisi.
We are standing on the very spot. About 10 years ago, I stood in front of the gate after visiting friends and suddenly wondered how a man nailing a few scraps of paper on the door changed the world. Why wasn't I told as a child what happened here?
The palace church is a central motif in Assisi's 360-degree panorama. Luther explains his theses to the people, shaking the Catholic Church to its core. The finishing touches are added to the panorama picture. Asisi and his 15-member team toiled for 6 years on the monumental work. 30 years of Luther's life on a canvas 15 meters tall and 75 in circumference. One major theme is the church's sale of indulgences, which outraged Luther.
Representatives of every social class stand in line to buy indulgences. The seller of indulgences is over there, looking this way. There you see Luther tearing letters of indulgence from people's hands and saying, "Are you mad? Indulgences aren't part of the true church. They're not divine. The church must not corrupt itself this way."
Yadegar Asisi also explored Luther's role artistically. A Jew is expelled from the city, common in that era. Luther, who later excoriated the Jews, stands to one side. In another scene, a woman is burned as a witch.
Luther never said a word against burning witches at the stake. That shows that he, too, was a man of his times. I can't reproach him for that. He was only human.
Asisi and his team staged 30 years from Luther's life and work with actors and local extras. Luther himself was played by the actor Matthias Peikert, who was especially fascinated by how Luther's character changed.
He went through a lot, experienced a lot, engaged in many struggles. You see it in his outward appearance, but also in his actions.
The project's patron is Margot Kessmann. She's the ambassador of the Council of the Evangelical Church in Germany for the Reformation anniversary.
I'm enthusiastic about how the individual scenes are put together with the appropriate people, that they are speaking with each other and that a vibrant scene arises, and that it conveys the artist's impression of church history and history as such.
This is Yadegar Asisi's 11th cyclorama. He showed his first in 2003. It was a huge panorama of Mount Everest. Others, larger and more spectacular, followed, like the nature panorama titled Amazonia. For his cyclorama of Pergamon, Asisi traveled to Turkey and recreated a day in 129 AD. Since 2012, his Berlin Wall picture has shown people the border between East and West Berlin on a gray November day in the early 1980s. Now visitors can immerse themselves in the world of the Reformation in Wittenberg. The rotunda will remain open for 5 years. Meanwhile, Yadegar Asisi is already working on new panoramas.